Because the danger with not answering those questions, with not giving them that information, trying to avoid making them feel different, is leaving them without answers and them feeling different anyways. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to do another just sit down and chat with you video for this one. It is always fun when I can just sit down and talk to you guys. I need to find a word to a name for these. Some kind of chat. TS chat, girl chat. I don't know. You guys give me ideas for what to call them, but something chats. I'm feeling that's the vibe. I wanted to talk about something that I saw online. Um, that is a very interesting topic and interesting conversation to have and question to think through. Um, it was on the Turner Syndrome Foundation's Facebook page. Well, I think they posted it to Instagram and Facebook, but I think I saw it on Facebook first. So I'm picturing the Facebook post. I saw their post that was a question posed to everybody. That was this image that says, "Do you recommend telling your child about their Turner syndrome diagnosis? If so, what advice would you give to other parents?" And I think I reposted it and said, like, "Oh, I have thoughts." And I do. I have lots of thoughts on this conversation. But I think it's a valid question and something that's important to think through. And I think it can be helpful to see it from both sides, like the parent side trying to navigate that and what their concerns might be, why this might even be something that they feel like they need to think through, but also the child side, like being the one having this information about you that you either do or do not know, and when you find out, it's a really it's a really nuanced situation emotionally. So I want to give room for that and acknowledge that, because this is not an easy conversation, right? Like, neither side is unemotional in this, and for valid reasons, very valid, important to consider reasons. So, one of the biggest contexts I have is, of course, my own experience with my family, my parents, and how they handled it. And I had this scenario where really they were able to decide when they felt like I was ready to know, when they felt like I could understand well enough to have it be helpful. And I do think that's an important aspect of this. So, one of the things that my mom has always said is that she was always so protective of me because of almost losing me. Like, because of that whole thing they went through, almost losing me, she was so much more protective with those things. She didn't want anyone to hurt me. She didn't want me to think any less of myself or think that I couldn't do anything because of it, or, just have it affect me in that way. She didn't want me to think I was weird or different or any less capable or anything like that. She didn't want it to hurt me in that way. And she didn't want other people, namely other kids in elementary school, to try to use it against me when they had no idea what they were talking about and would just be being mean. Not that I was saved from, like, short jokes and stuff, like, critique for that, but it's an important concern, and it is a real valid concern. You don't want this conversation where you tell them to be at an age where it scares them by the way that you're talking about it, or it changes how they see themselves, because you want them to be able to process it enough for it to be helpful, it to be okay. And I know for me, when I was told, I started asking questions. I started noticing things. And that is when it led to more of a deeper conversation about what was going on with me medically. And the word Turner syndrome first got brought up. And I think part of that comes into being prepared for that conversation, knowing if they're starting to get ready to have that, if they're seeming to, if it's a circumstance where you have the choice of structuring it for them, giving them a foundation with it, not having to just flood them with information or overwhelm at doctor's appointments. That's not everybody's situation. I fully acknowledge that. And that's got to be a much different scenario to go through. And you kind of got to just take that as it comes, I think. But when you can plan ahead, when you can have that context, it helps to know what their level is, to put it in terms they can understand, and it gives them what they need at that point, right? Like at 7 years old, they won't maybe need what their reproductive options later are going to be. They may not even need detail on how puberty will look different, but you can prepare them for things like your body is going to develop at a different rate. You will be shorter. You will have these differences that is uniquely you. And possibly even starting the conversation of having babies, having kids, having a family will likely look different. And I don't think those are inappropriate or not developmentally matched for pretty young. I mean, I would say probably pretty young could handle those points of it. And then you add more as they get older. It's a continual conversation, not just a one time thing. And if you feel like they can handle it, yeah, conversation of you have Turner syndrome, which just means you are made very uniquely in certain ways. And depending where they're at, that may be all they need. I just wanted to share that if you have not watched my movie Like a Butterfly yet, you can now stream it online. I did not start my channel intending to share about Turner syndrome on it. Then I started getting a flood of comments of girls and women that also had Turner syndrome, and then I just couldn't stop talking about it. My story actually starts before I was even born. Pretty quickly it became obvious that something was wrong. It is Tuesday and my appointment is tomorrow. My first appointment with the infertility doctor, or fertility doctor, whichever way you want to look at it. My name is Brooke, and I have Turner syndrome.
I was diagnosed with Turner syndrome at about age 13. As far as symptoms or health complications, I'm very lucky.
My Turner syndrome story started like when I was 5 years old.
So I was 7, and I was diagnosed in Houston, Texas.
I was diagnosed with Turner syndrome upon my birth in April of '94.
I was diagnosed when I was 2.5 in June of 2002.
I was diagnosed with mosaic Turners when I was 12.
So click the link in the description box, go to the link that you see on the screen, and you can watch Like a Butterfly. And I hope you enjoy it. Now, back to the episode. So, to answer the first question, do I think you should tell your child? Yes. I'm not going to prescribe an age for that. Every child is going to be different with how and when might be right for them to know. If they are starting major surgeries, major doctor's appointments at 4 years old, you're going to be having these conversations a lot earlier than somebody that doesn't have that. The flip side is, yes, you should tell your child when they seem to be needing the information at the latest. They should be getting answers to questions that come up. I think if they're asking questions, that means it's probably time to give them those answers and give them that context. And as fully as they're ready for it at that point. I think keeping it at their level is important, but I don't think that means you have to avoid answering any questions that come up or keeping it a taboo topic. The biggest concern from a parent standpoint is making your child feel weird or different or incapable or anything like that. But the flip side of that is making them feel like it's taboo, like it's something shameful that they shouldn't share with others. And that's something you want to balance. And that's an important balance. It can be difficult, but it's important because you don't want them to be treated wrongly by others, but you also want to keep their self-esteem well and all of that. On the same side, you don't want them to feel like they need to be ashamed of that part of them because they will feel that connection of, well, that's me though. Like that's a part of me. That's a part of who I am. That's how I'm made. And part of it can feel like, well, I feel different anyway. So what's wrong with me? Because the danger with not answering those questions, with not giving them that information, trying to avoid making them feel different, is leaving them without answers and them feeling different anyways, because they will feel different anyways. That is going to be a thing. That part isn't avoidable. I have what I would call a very light case of Turner syndrome. I have basically full infertility, premature ovarian failure. I'm short, but not the shortest, and without hormones, without growth hormones. But much of me you cannot look and tell, besides my height. But that's that you cannot look at me and tell a lot of things. But I felt different because of delayed puberty, because of my height, because of how my neck looked to me. Like it wasn't obvious to everybody else, but it was to me. Things like that. And just I can't even explain it in any better of words. Just an internal feeling of different, an internal compass for I'm different. There's something different. Of course, you grow up, you find out more and more what's different, but there's that feeling internally, anyways. So that's going to happen. If they have that context, if they have that information, whether they share it widely or not, at least they can understand about themselves what's going on. Because I know that was probably the biggest thing for me when I found out was I was getting these questions answered and it answered a lot. Like it was explaining a lot for me. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And well, yes, I still struggled with everything I just talked about, like feeling different, feeling off, slightly off from everybody else. I understood why. It was so frustrating. It still sucked, it still hurt, but I knew why and I could understand. And for me, do my obsessive researching to learn more and more about how my body was working and what really was different for me. So, for that regard, I do recommend telling your child. My advice would be just keeping it at their level, and then it can feel less stressful because don't have the whole behemoth of the diagnosis that is Turner syndrome you need to give them, you can just answer the questions that they have right now. And that is more immensely helpful to them than you will ever know. That really can make a huge difference for them, even if they still aren't sure fully what Turner syndrome is. That's okay. They got what they needed right now. And then you can meet them at the next step when they're ready for more. And, you're riding the roller coaster with them. You're riding the ride of Turner syndrome along with them and going where it goes. So I feel like that would be my biggest thoughts and recommendations and feelings on this. I would love to hear everybody else's thoughts. Leave me a comment, let me know, and I hope this was helpful for those trying to navigate this. I hope that those conversations go well. And I hope this gave you a little bit of insight onto what your child might be experiencing while trying to seek those answers and understand what's going on with them. Because it's complex. I don't know if I'll ever fully understand Turner syndrome. And maybe that's the point. Maybe we're not really meant to, but even just what I got was what I needed then. And it helped because I could understand what was going on with me. And yeah, sure, I still feel kind of odd about it, but at least I knew why. And that made a difference. That made a bigger difference than you might think. So, again, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what you think I should call these random little chats that I want to have, because it's been really fun the last couple times I've gotten to just talk to the camera. I feel like that's been a while. So, yeah, and I'll see you guys in the next video.